Hello again everybody and welcome back to Fujit's Blitz. Now today I want to talk about this tank. It's an American heavy, it's the Tier 9 Yoh. Now interestingly, quite a few struggle with this tank, especially with those lower win rates, and to be honest with you, it's hardly surprising that many do. The Yoh line, which is the most recent tech tree addition to the game, is actually a really nice line. Some say the Tier 10 Yoh is OP, but as per usual, I'm not one of those. Yes, it's a strong tank, but like all tanks, in the right hands it looks totally broken, especially with that 2-clip gun and its trollish armour. Same applies, however, to the Tier 9. It has both a 2 and a 3-clip gun and troll armour, and both have similar win rates, according to Blitz stars, of just over 52%. Now, I just want to do a clarification here. The thing about both Wargaming stats and Blitz stars, while they're based on players with relatively decent win rates, Wargaming have their stats based on players between 55 and 65%, and Blitz stars from 45 to 55%, apparently. And to be honest with you, we have actually no idea how many players fall into the lower end bracket of that win rate pool to make up the overall stats. So, you know, it could be that a majority of the players are in the 60 to 65% range. We just don't know. Now, the Tier 9 Yoh is, at least in my experience, a lot harder to get to grips with than the Tier 10. And that is all because of its long reload time. In fact, it's just over 25 seconds for the Tier 9 2-clip, compared to just over 19 seconds for the Tier 10. And those 6 seconds, believe me, make a massive difference. The overall aim time is also quite a big factor. The Tier 10 with its 2 seconds and the Tier 9 with almost 2.5 seconds is quite a significant difference. And it's these factors that you've really got to consider, and they don't change that much even if you load up the 3-clip. Okay, it's normal for the higher tier tank to be, better, packing more of a punch and such, but the gun handling between these two tanks is pretty huge when you consider it. Looking at the 3-clip gun differences between the two tanks, the Tier 9 and the Tier 10, the contrast is very stark indeed. Now, the Tier 9 Yoh will reload its 3-clip in 22 seconds, whereas the Tier 10 will do it in a mere 12 seconds. I mean, that's a full 10 seconds difference, and in the upper echelons of this game, 10 seconds is absolutely massive. I mean, it's huge. I really can't underestimate and anything of that 10-second difference. It really is significantly massive. With these load times, the Tier 9 Yoh is therefore an incredibly tricky beast indeed, and it does take some getting used to. Especially if you're like me. You're not some super duper pro player, you're just an average player. The Tier 9 Yoh, unlike its Tier X counterpart, isn't, in my opinion, a true heavy. Well, no, not really. Look, most heavy tanks are bullies. They're designed to pack a huge punch, but also take some hits in return. Most heavy tanks are, they're meant to be front-lined, unless of course you're what we term a heavium, and even then in a heavium, you can sort of be almost front line. One thing about heavy is that they all generally have a longish reload, and they have to have a longish reload to balance their armor and their ability to hurt. But the Tier 9 Yoh is somewhat different to most heavies, and this is where players start to struggle. Now, playing the Tier 9 Yoh requires a different set of tactics. Frontlining as such is not the order of the day for this tank, because once you have shot your clip, you are very vulnerable indeed. Okay, it has a sausage thin turret that is really tricky to hit, but let's be honest, it's eaten a far too many beef burgers and has a fat lower hull. That is really easy to hit, especially from the side and the rear. And if you're facing, say, a T-62A, then during your reload, you can get hit 5 times by that T-62A, knocking out his 310 Alpha. That's like 1500 HP you have the potential to lose whilst reloading. That's like 3/4 of your hit point pool. And once reloaded, yes, you can hit the poor T-62A for 900 if you manage to unload your entire clip. But the 62A will still have almost half his HP left in order to finish you off. Now the situation doesn't get much better if you're facing off against Tier 8s, which this tank will. Just look at the DPM of the Yoh compared to some of the Tier 8s. I mean, a DPM of 1951 if you've got the 3 clip, or 1969 if you got the 2 clip, is pretty low indeed, especially for a Tier 9. Lower than the Tier 8 Yoh, and only just managing to beat the VK100-01P in those stakes. Now, when this tank first came out, I said it wasn't a noob-friendly tank, and I'm sticking with that view, because this is the tank that does require some degree of skill, knowledge, and understanding, not only of the maps and the other tanks, but also its own weaknesses. Yes, it can, and it does pack a decent punch when it's required to, but it's not Rocky, and it can't sit there and take the beating back. It needs to be handled with care, and timing is everything with this tank. Get it wrong, you're back in the garage. Get it right, and you're riding high on a whirlwind. Personally, I like the Tier 9 Yoh. Why? Because it's a challenge, it's tricky, and it forces you to compromise and change your gameplay to actually suit the tank. You can have lots of fun in the Yoh, and it will put a smile on your face watching the enemy trying in vain to shoot your turret. But it will also make you frustrated if a lighter or medium uses your excessive reload to get round you and pull your lower hull. The Yoh is not just a mean tank, although some think it is. It can be really fun to play. Anyway, I've been Fujit. That's been my quick take on the Tier 9 Yoh, and I mean a quick take. By all means, comment and everything below, and until the next time, guys, remember, stay safe out there, have fun on the battlefield, and happy tanking, because that's what it's all about, having fun and being happy.